U.S. housing starts slowing in January as builders pull back on construction amid fears and growing fears over high mortgage rates, affordability challenges, and unsold homes. New construction fell nearly 10% to an annual rate of 1.37 million homes, falling short of Wall Street's estimates. Here with more on the state of the housing market, we've got Danielle Hale, who is the chief economist at Realtor.com here. Great to have you back on the program. So first, just walk us through some of the dynamic here that we're seeing in new construction.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brad. So in the new construction market, as you mentioned, there's some uncertainty that builders are experiencing right now, and we see that reflected in the data with that pullback in starts. Now, there are a couple of good things happening in that data. One is that completions ticked higher, so builders seem to be in get it done mode, trying to close out construction projects that are already underway. That will near term boost supply, which will be good for buyers, but will make it a little bit more challenging. Builders will have to compete with each other to get rid of and to sell that inventory. Looking further ahead, as you noted, starts are down. That was pretty much in both single family and multifamily types. But looking at the permit data, which is about what is, even further into the future, we saw that data was roughly flat. So not quite as bad as you might expect, given the concerns that builders have about buyer traffic and tariffs and costs down the road. But they're sort of taking a wait and see approach, getting the permits, holding some optimism for the future, but not quite moving forward with projects, perhaps until they get a little bit more certainty.
And so with that, there is the uncertainty of what the cost could be, because we're already at some of the record high prices. And so now, if we did see even more costs that have to get passed through to potential buyers, how are we essentially running the calculus on how much higher the costs could go for potential buyers as well?
Yeah, I think costs have actually been a challenge for home shoppers in the market. New homes have done a better job of being flexible, so builders have targeted smaller footprint homes to help bring down those costs. But if their costs rise as tariffs go up, or if it's harder for them to find workers to build those homes, they're certainly going to try to pass those costs on to consumers. And with mortgage rates remaining very close to that 7% horizon, it's going to be challenging for them to do so. So I do think that puts builders in a challenging position, and that's why we see some of that hesitation in the starting activity.
Danielle, while we have you, I want to take a quick pivot. On the show yesterday, we discussed best practices for buying your first home. And today, we want to talk about moving out of your starter home and into your next one. Maybe you have a family and you're now shopping around. So talk to us about how your mindset shifts from starter to second home, and perhaps give the folks at home some tips for their shopping journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think going from a starter home to a larger home can happen maybe sooner than people expect. There's survey data that shows that often people expect to be in their first home a bit longer than actual sellers indicate they're in their first home. But it's great to be able to make that trade up. It's a bit of a challenging market to try to do that right now, but there are some things that consumers can keep in mind. The first, I would say, is to be aware of what are your non-negotiables. Is the school district the most important thing for you? Are you more interested in size and space or proximity to the office? Whatever your non-negotiables are, figure that out and lock it in up front. It'll make it easier for you to make trade-offs down the road, because we know that consumers have to make trade-offs. The other thing to consider is being willing to buy during the off season. You'll get better pricing. You might sacrifice options. We do see more for sale homes in the peak spring season, but you'll get sellers who are potentially a little bit more flexible if you're buying during the shoulder season, which is typically in the fall. The other thing that you want to do is focus on the things you can control. You cannot control inflation. You cannot control the Fed policy and what's going to happen to mortgage rates, but there are things that you can do to get a better rate for yourself. Those include improving your credit score, lowering your debt to income ratio by either paying down debt or trying to grow your income, focusing on your loan to value ratio, either reducing the price of the home you're looking for or making a larger down payment. And finally, the thing you can do the easiest is shop around among lenders. All of those things can contribute to a lower mortgage rate, regardless of what's happening in the market.
Is there a sweet spot right now for the down payment that people should have saved up?
You know, it's going to be different for everyone. The larger the down payment, the lower your monthly costs. But, I think we see a lot of repeat buyers in the 13% or so range. That's about the average. So that's a good target. Of course, if you've seen some nice price appreciation in your starter home, you might be able to put a larger down payment. And that certainly makes those monthly costs lower going forward, which is a nice help when rates are high.
Excellent, excellent. Danielle, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
Certainly.